Hey guys, it's Michael, teacher turned trucker. Today you're going to hear a little bit more from the teacher side. As I mentioned in my first video, I've been teaching intensive reading, so there's a lot of strategies for studying and whatnot that I use with my students. So the overarching principle for this video is going to be for how to prepare for your CDL permit tests. Because that was a process for me. I know how to read. I'm relatively good at studying, but when I sit down for a test, even as many tests as I've taken, I still find myself a lot of times just struggling with stress. When I took my permit exams, just to be honest with you guys, general knowledge, I studied that one frontwards and backwards. I passed it no trouble. Air brakes, I studied that one a little bit less and passed it no problem. Got to the combination, and this one here I did not study quite as much as the other two. And so nerves had more room to creep in. Got to question 15, had to get 16 right. I missed 3 of them in a row. Okay, I'd already missed 1 or 2, so that I failed. Okay, I went back up to the counter. I was expecting to have to reschedule, and she says, "No, I can put you back on the computer." Sat back on the computer, a new bank of questions. Some of them overlapped. I got up to 15, had not missed any. I missed 3 in a row because of stress, because I was getting anxious, because I was trying to rush and just starting to find myself that defeatist mentality. And then I got the last one right. And looking back and thinking back at the questions themselves, the questions were not the issue. It was my preparation for that particular portion which allowed the stress. Okay, so a couple of points that I want to kind of draw out. For those of you guys who maybe you're a little older, maybe you don't do well on tests, repetition is key. That's number one. Repetition is key. Do not try to cram. Cramming, short-term memory, is very ineffective, especially when you have as much information as you are trying to push into your brain. No matter if you're an 18-year-old, 21-year-old, 45-year-old, it doesn't matter if you have 2 PhDs. Unless you have an eidetic memory where you just read something once and it's there and you just bring it up and recall it. Very few people like that. So cramming is not the answer. Repetition is. Within this repetition, I'm also going to challenge you to include multiple input factors or resources. So if you're reading a book and you're studying, try to also listen to audios where they're talking about the questions and whatnot. If you're doing that, maybe also some videos as well. And if that's the case, hold on. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully I can fix some of that in the editing. I have a less than 2-year-old baby who decided she wanted to come in and see daddy. So repetition, mixing up the method of intake, not just reading, not just watching videos, not just listening. Don't use just one. I tell my students multiple sensory intake is the key, because most people have at least 2 of those methods that they need. A quick way to find out if you're someone who, when you're trying to remember something, you tend to close your eyes, that means you're an auditory learner. Okay? If you're someone who the first thing you do when you hear something is you try to picture it, you're a visual learner. Tactile, if you find yourself tapping your fingers when you're trying to memorize something, you're a tactile learner. Now, usually, like with myself, those overlap a bit, especially when you're trying to cram. So, number one, repetition, identifying the different methods that you want to study with. The second tip I have for you guys is something I came across, and it is an app on my phone. I got it from the Google Play Store. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's CDL Test is the name of it. version 3.1.1, build 124 is the one I use. It shows it's a red background with CDL in red, the United States, and a road going up to it. I'll see about linking it in the description. I use that a lot, and I'm fast paced my way through after I got through the initial. The thing I like about this app a lot is it broke the questions down into small sections that increasingly got larger and larger, like 8 questions in one, I think 12 in the next, and then 15 or something like that. And as you progress through, you're using tip number one, which is repetition. And then you're using this one here, which allows you to quiz yourself with questions versus just trying to take in information. Information is great, but seeing the questions as a question is there's just no replacing it. When I took my exams, several of the questions that were on the tests were covered actually in the app itself. I did get a book off YouTube. I don't remember the name of it. I thought about holding it up to show it to you, but since I'm still new, I don't know what copyright and advertisements and all that is, so I'm just going to steer clear of that. I did read it. I studied it. I took the questions that were in the back of the book. There was 100 questions, and then I worked my way back through why I missed each of them that I did as I did so. I found the book for me was actually the weakest because I'm not someone who can sit, read, and memorize. Irony, I teach reading. Okay, so the strength there is recognizing what I need to do to comprehend and take in knowledge. So I used the book as a starting point. I shifted to the apps. I also found some general knowledge videos on YouTube where it was like in a computer just reading the questions. And I'd listen to them in my car, I'd listen to them on my planning period. I'd go to Panera and I'd put my little headphones in and I'd listen to them there. So consistently over a period of about, I think it was about 6 months, off and on. Some weeks I wouldn't touch the stuff much, and then as we got closer, about 2 months out, I started doing it much more frequently. So the first one is repetition. The second one is finding the apps and the other printed resources. Use them, okay? Even if you're not someone who can pick up a book and read and learn it that way, the apps and the book together will help tremendously for most people, I think, because the book tended to give a little bit more information, especially in the area of diagrams. You had the pictures that were much more helpful than what the app itself provided. The app tried to supply some photos and whatnot, but it wasn't all that helpful. Which reminds me, on the tests themselves, there were questions, and then again here in Florida, they would show a picture of a part. And I'll be honest with you, there's some of the times where, I mean, I recognize what the part was, like the S-cam. I recognize what it was, but trying to make sense of what the question's asking in relation to it, I almost got the impression it was put in as an afterthought. So focusing on what the questions are asking, how the parts interact with one another, was very helpful for me. Again, this is Michael. This is my experience, and again, I'm using this as much to hopefully help others as it is for myself, because I really do like to look back and compare to where I was 6 months or a year from now. As always, if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the box below. If you like the video, or if you have any suggestions, please by all means hit the like button and put your comments and your suggestions in the box below. Again, I'm transitioning still from teacher to trucker, so some of these early videos are going to be more on the process of transitioning from one career to the next. But I'm open to anything that's in my wheelhouse or maybe even slightly out of it. let me know. Looking forward to hearing from you guys and developing a community. Take care, guys, and keep on learning.